Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high-level StarCraft 2 game. Today, in the bottom left spawning as the Zerg player with the blue trunks, it's the Italian player Reynor, playing for Team Clash. And in the top right spawning as the red Protoss, playing for Africa Freaks, it is Trap. Trap opening up with a cheeky chrono boost here before the pylon finishes, which means that this was a 13 pylon. This allows Trap to immediately send the worker across the map that built the pylon. It's a little bit easier to do. I personally do believe that it is slightly worse economically compared to a 14 pylon and just sending your first worker a bit earlier. Where we're somewhere around the scope of 5 to 10 minerals worse this opener. So I'm not quite sure why Trap likes to open like this, as I don't believe it's actually better. I do believe that it's slightly worse, but yeah, he does this very consistently. I know Zest does this very consistently as well, so perhaps there is something I'm missing, but perhaps there's something that they're missing, of course. That is possible. All right, let's see what else good old Trap's going to be. It's going to be a standard Nexus before core, so no cheeky quick adapts across the map. Just going to see that core go down at the 20 supply after the Nexus. And Reynor takes the forward base. With that forward base, you always have the possibility, of course, to go for any type of queen walk. Although on this map, it is not something that I necessarily recommend, a queen walk here. I'd say on a map like this, the best thing you can often do is either some type of later queen walk with Corruptor Roach. But even that is kind of tricky. Just want to get a lot of creep going. That's something that Reynor is quite good at. Just getting a lot of creep and doing some random attack. That is how he describes his own playstyle. When I asked him, I was like, hey, he doesn't actually really like playing build orders, similar to how most other players play build orders. He's more of a feeling type of guy. Of course, he knows a lot of theory and what good openers are. But when it comes to these mid-game timings, he just kind of sees what feels right and he kind of feels the vibe of the game. This does tend to mean that whenever he does a push like a queen walk, which he does very rarely anyway, so that it tends to be a little bit less tight, but the assets that he has are often slightly bigger. So he'll have a lot of creep because his mechanics are just insanely good. He'll have a lot of information. His unit control is absolutely fantastic as well. But the build order itself tends to be a little bit odd, a little bit funky. He plays extremely reactive to what his opponent is doing. Pretty close to losing that first creep tumor here as well. Did manage to save it. That's good. That's actually kind of important if you want to get that creep going across the map. So the Adept parks itself in between the main and the natural to make sure that no more drones can start mining on that third base. We see a little bit of oversaturation in the main here for Reynor. The drones are just moving from patch to patch. Speed is about to be finished and this Overlord makes its way back home. Most likely means that Trap's going to have a difficult time to catch this. And as a result, Reynor might just not need this extra Overlord. Of course, he's going to build it in case he loses this, but it is possible that it will survive. We'll see what Trap's path is going to be. As a Protoss here, you need to make a decision. You're like, okay, did he decide to send it back home or did he send it to the left side? And if so, where did he send it to the left side? Is it over here? Is it over here? Where is he currently at? As you see, Trap kind of getting distracted here by a Zergling and giving up the search, honestly. Reynor sends this Overlord all the way to the far left corner, and we'll get it back home eventually. Warp Gate's about to finish up, and after this we will start to see kind of what Trap is planning. Will that be that fast +1? Yep. We're going to see the quick air weapons, level 1, coming out of Trap, as these two Adepts will finish up their Shade and get 2-3 kills here. Well, 2 kills initially, 3, 4. Oh, that's a good trade. Usually we say 4 kills is good, 3 kills is about even, 4 kills is good. Also forces out 2 spores with the Oracle in the natural base. So overall it's been a pretty darn decent start here for Trap. Second Stargate is now starting as well, so there's the Forge here. Of course for some type of, for some early safety. These Adepts are going to start moving towards the bottom side of the map. We have another 2 Adepts being set up here for that run by. For a little, I guess a shade by would be a better word for it. What are these links looking for? Not a whole lot. I think he's just staying in between the main and the natural, making sure that the next adept warp in will not happen. Single links are getting sent out, and I think Reynor will confirm here the fact that there is a +1 air weapons being researched. If he decides to use this link. For now, it's just going to be patrolling over here. We have another link being set up to see the next move out, just in case it's some type of glaive pressure build. It's always nice to see that quick and early. Reynor pops in, sees the gas timing here. This is a quick gas timing, gas finishing at 5:33. I think Reynor already spotted the +1 air weapons, otherwise he at least doesn't really seem to care about it too much. He might have just seen that animation already. As a result, know what's going on. 7 queens are out, another queen on the way. Does feel like he knows what's going on. Fort base is going up without any major issues. Creep, as always, when we're looking at a Reynor game, is looking extremely good. 2 workers go down against these 2 adepts. Now, the later we get into the game, the less effective these adepts get, right? If you kill 2 workers out of 20 workers, that is a solid 10%. But if you kill 2 workers while your opponent has 66 workers, well, that's a lot less valuable when it comes to the percentage of income. It's a little less snowbally. 3 worker kills still is a fine trade, but it's not very impactful anymore at this point. I mean, we're building 12, 11 workers at a time here. Reynor's going up to 83 at the 6:30 marks as the queen position themselves at the fort. We have a spore moving into position in the natural as well. It wouldn't surprise me here if... Oh, Oracle's actually gonna die. That does surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Reynor takes the 8 gases soon. And he probably should have taken them a bit earlier already. This is an odd opener here. His creep spread is really good. But there's not much here, honestly. It's now getting an infestation pit. But I don't think this is going to be a push of some sorts. But at the same time, it also doesn't look like a super quick tacking setup, right? Like, this infestation pit is relatively late. We're seeing 11 roaches on the way. But then there's 5 more drones as well. Like, are these safety roaches or... What are we really doing here? I think Reynor's just struggling to figure out what is going on exactly. And he's really not finding it out right at this moment. Creep tumor is getting taken out. This observer will start moving back with the void ray. I mean, this is what, 1 creep tumor taken out? Or we had 6 creep tumors taken out in an 8-minute game. We currently have 41 creep tumors on the map as well, so that's a very small percentage. We have active creep tumors in every single direction as well, which is often the most important thing. As long as you can immediately refresh these active creep tumors, you're going to be fine as a Zerg player. These roaches haven't done much. A couple of infestors here as well. Curious to see what these are going to be used for. These are the next 3 carriers already, right? We already have 3 out, yeah. So, kind of moving into a 6 carrier push here with, well, no +2 quite yet, but honestly should be starting relatively soon. It isn't yet. Twilight Council instead on the way, Flux Veins as well. So Reynor is just playing in an extremely slow game. Giving Trap a lot of space. Well, not necessarily tacking that quickly himself. I mean, this is a 9-minute hive. We have a bunch of spores in the main. That would make sense if you wouldn't have this fort base, because then you're afraid of someone flying in. But how is Protoss going to fly in here with a mothership for an aggressive recall? I don't quite see it happen. There's no 5th base really mining either for Reynor. I feel like Reynor believed that Wait, he's getting a Hydras? He's going into a Lurker from here. Is that a call? I don't think it is, honestly. Is Lurker the correct call? Nah, no way. It's too late, no? Lurkers at this point really don't provide a lot of safety anymore. I mean, there's no ground army to speak of whatsoever anyway. Good microbial shroud is being used here. It's going to allow these queens to survive a little bit longer. Did have a lurker there, yeah. No seismic spines yet though. Now starts with the adaptive talons. We have adrenal glands on the way. I feel like the moment his first lurkers are out, he immediately needs to transition out of it again as well, because they're basically obsolete at this point, right? You don't really need them. There's gravitic drive on the way, which is the warp prism speed. And we don't have the observer speed quite yet. We do have flux veins. Charge is about to finish up, +1, and +2 air weapons also about to end. 5th base being taken here for Trap, who's playing a game that is quite slow as well. Really quite slow. But Reynor, I'm so surprised that he hasn't really taken the more conservative approach, whether that is like with like a Lingbane type of ultra style. If you open up, I mean, he opened up with like 19 queens, a freaking 19 queens. Lingbane Ultra would be really nice with that. We also could have seen a more Corruptor-based opener with them quicker Vipers, couple of Brute Lords to defend against ground armies. Like, these really are the standard styles, and not seeing either of this out of Reynor against an army that is just going to be difficult to fight. Yeah, I think that is really just a mistake. I don't think there's any way around that. Triple cannons as well as 2 batteries are being thrown down here, and this Zealot is getting caught by the... I mean, we're 11 minutes into a game in which practically nothing has happened so far. We still have 11 roaches, 19 queens. Like, this army has no damage output whatsoever. Like, queens are decent at staying alive in Microbial Shroud, but they don't kill anything. There's 96 workers. Trap starts moving forward. I think Trap can be a lot more aggressive than he's being right now, because he's definitely not being all that aggressive. 20 links coming in. Do we even have Baneling speed? There's no Baneling speed. Now the Ultra is coming. This feels like Reynor just wanted to get lurkers for no reason. Like someone paid him before the game to get lurkers out, you know? You used to have in Risk, have like these tasks. These little cards with like a task that you had to fulfill. Like a conquer Western Europe or something like that. And this is kind of what it feels like. That someone handed Reynor one of these cards and says like, just get 6 lurkers with all the upgrades out. And then go into Ultralisk from there on out. Because this just by itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And he still has these 11 roaches alive as well. And the longer all of these units stay alive, the worse it's going to get for him. Because this army just keeps growing in strength. While Reynor's army, like, he's going to have a great remax, don't get me wrong. But this is going to be a rough fight. It really is. A lot of spines and spores are going to get taken out before anything really happens. Reynor caught out of position a little bit. Trap did a good job denying as much creep as possible. And with that creep also the vision range that Reynor had. Trap meanwhile setting up a 6th base during this attack. He's on 78 workers. Takes out a bunch of spores and 8 spores, 4 spines. Decides to piss off as well. New spores are moving towards the front right now. There's a couple of Vipers in the back, 19 queens still out. They do have a lot of energy, which is nice, but Trap hasn't lost much more than, what, maybe 20 interceptors? 33 interceptors have gone down. We now have a 7th base on the way. Can I count? Yeah, I can count. That's the 7th base. Solid. The left side is being defended by these roaches and these links with adrenal glands and decent upgrades. Of course, here come a couple of decent abducts, but the abducts into what? Into queens and spores, I guess. All of the queens are going to fall. 2 carriers will die as well, but Trap is just walking over Reynor right here. Taking out queen after queen, spore after spore. Microbial Shout is helping out. A lot of the interceptors will fall. Now we finally have 13 corruptors on the way, which is kind of that magic number. The 13 corruptors can 2-shot carriers, I believe. This is something that Zergs like to stress. As we're finally getting some upgrades on these spires as well. An Ultra is stuck behind a Roach Warren. Wouldn't mind if that Roach Warren doesn't get rebuilt. This Roach Warren tends to just be completely useless. Disruptor shots are being sent forward. Lurker. I mean, this Lurker is going to get, what, 0 kills so far this game. Absolutely fantastic. Vipers are out of energy. Good storms on top of these Microbial Shrouded Queens. I think Reynor's in a little bit of trouble here. When I say a little bit of trouble, he might just be absolutely dead. Trying to fight with these roaches, with the Ultras. We get an abduct on the mothership, but the mothership doesn't even die. Archons on the low ground are helping out. Zoning out these Corruptors as well. As the Ultralisk are kind of attacking into nothingness here. This is an absolutely painful fight here for Reynor, who's getting blasted at a high level. Losing Corruptor after Corruptor after Corruptor after Corruptor, and just not doing much of anything. It felt like I don't, it's just such a weird game. If we had covered the names here, I don't think I would have guessed Reynor. Maybe in the early game I would have said Reynor, as his creep threat, as always, was marvelous. His queen control was insane, but the mid-game plan was completely lacking. And I mean, the late game, he doesn't even get to go there. This is the first time he's getting any decent count of corruptors. His 2-2 finally finished, but he's fighting against a +3 carrier force already at this point. I mean, there's an army in between all the reinforcement bases. Outside is getting blasted by these DTs as well. 17 drones have gone down. The worker count is dwindling. The tech is being destroyed as well. Is there any outside spires? No, these are the only 2 spires. There's no backup layer either. I do believe that 7 Vipers just got built, so that will be something at least. But he's just not mining more than his opponent. Corruptors might actually win a little bit. The peeing base trade here. He starts staking out a Nexus with decent Corruptor force. Don't forget though that that was one of the 7 bases, as Reynor currently only on 4 bases left. Carriers moving forward as well, once again targeting down these spores. There's just not anything that can deal with these carriers. Archons might struggle a bit with the Lurkers and with, well, mainly the Ultras honestly. Ultras moving forward and dealing a lot of damage. These Lurkers are still here from the early game. This is what I'm talking about, look at that. These 3 Lurkers together combined have 2 kills total. It's completely useless. So much time invested into them. Just delayed everything else. Now this was a pretty darn decent fight for Reynor. The problem just being that he's down 30 workers. He's losing another base here. He's on 3 bases. He has a completely crap army. If this was the setup from the start, look how that fight just went. With these Ultras, with these Corruptors, and with these Infestors and Vipers. The control that Reynor has. The command that he has with so many control groups and how solid he is with that. I'm surprised we didn't see this quicker out of him. He wanted something else. I guess he really wanted to survive with Lurkers, but there never was a Charged Archon push. And he could have scouted that. I mean, he had Overlord speed, he had them Overseers. Both Overseers kind of fell flat, one over here, the other one over here. And as a result, I guess he wanted to play it safe, go into Lurkers. But then your late game follow-up is just, I think it's just a little bit too slow. And constantly just kind of chasing your opponent's stack. And not in a good way. Scarer's gonna get taken out. Like, the control on these Corruptors is fantastic. It's marvelous. Reynor's getting so much done with so little units. The problem is just, there is too little units, I believe, right now. There's more upgrades on the way for Trap, who's taking a 7th base once again. Reynor's still trying to struggle to even get about 50 workers right now. Not even close to being maxed. Spire finally on the way. Infestation Pit being built as well. There's a lot of money in the bank here for Reynor, but I'm not quite sure if he will ever see the day where he can spend this money. 9 more drones are being pushed out. Larva, well, they need to be popped as well here. Hopefully at some point. Overlords are gonna get pushed back. Carrier once again gets taken off. I mean, this is just crazy to me. How well Reynor is doing with this Corruptor squad. How much damage he's dealing with this. It's just inexplicable to me why he wouldn't just immediately go into that. Another fungal hit. Parasitic bomb is going off as well. Trap is absolutely getting out microed here. Like, talking about control, like, Trap is kind of lacking. And Reynor is just showing what is possible with extremely little units. Like, the unit loss is of course in favor of Trap, but for how small this army is, this type of stuff never should happen. Trap is just going to walk away with the win here. Triple G out of Reynor. Is going to be feeling a little bit frustrated with himself after that game. Gonna be hitting himself in the head as Trap takes the dub. That's going to be it from me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye bye.